Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
One of our favorite ways to spend an hour is speaking with a peer in the health and fitness coaching space and a leader who's built a coaching business that lasts. Today's guest is Jennifer Nagel, a seasoned and veteran health and fitness coach who works with busy professional, middle-aged women on building healthy strength, fitness, and nutrition habits. She's been in the game a long time and also helps new and aspiring coaches understand how to build their businesses too. She advises us all to start by really knowing our niche and our offer. We know you've heard that many times before, not just from the many business and marketing pros we've interviewed, but from Laura and myself too. It's simply small business advice that never really changes, folks. So if you haven't already gotten really clear on who you help and how, might we suggest it's an important exercise to take on like yesterday? A quick promotional message, and then we'll be on our way with this episode. We've recently launched something that we're really excited about and wanted to share with you. My Primal Coach is a convenient app-based health coaching program that delivers daily lessons with actionable tips for losing weight, gaining strength and energy, sleeping better, managing stress, and more. It provides personal one-on-one coaching to help you stay on track and reach your wellness goals in just 12 weeks. My Primal Coach is developed and delivered by the team behind the Primal Health Coach Institute, the first and preeminent ancestral health coaching school in existence. Primal Health Coach Institute has trained and certified thousands of successful health coaches across 75 countries around the world. We're experts in behavior change, and we understand how to get clients the results they desire. Our mission at My Primal Coach is the same as our mission with Primal Health Coach Institute, to help 100 million people reclaim health and wellness through education and coaching. Check it out for yourself at myprimalcoach.com. We love to see who's listening out there, so please take a screen grab of your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. And don't forget the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. Okay, time to get on with the show. We do hope you'll learn a lot and feel inspired by our conversation with our guest, Jennifer Nagel.
Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday. How are you?
I'm good, Laura. Erin, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Well, we are excited to talk to you because our favorite guests are always practicing coaches, people that are out there in the trenches, making it work. And we love to pick apart your brain to find out how you did it and what words of wisdom you can share with others. So the easiest way to start this conversation is to hear from you a little bit about your story and how you got here.
Yeah. So your your listeners can't see me, but I am a little bit older and I actually started my work and professional career in higher education. So I worked in that area for 15 years. And during that time, I went through a divorce. I became a single parent of a little girl who's now not so little girl. And during that time, at first I was always a very active, healthy kind of person. But when I went through that big life transition, I had to basically start over. So I was working really hard. I got promoted at work, which sounds great. But when you're in the middle of uprooting your entire life, it was such a huge stressor. So first I lost divorce weight, then I gained a lot of divorce weight. But I wasn't sleeping. I was literally living off of Diet Dr. Pepper and peanut butter out of the jar. It was really sad. And of course, obviously, after a few months of that, my body responded in kind. And I remember one day feeling just really terrible and I couldn't really put my finger on it. And I'd been to the doctor a few times. And this time I went to the doctor and they diagnosed me with high blood pressure. And I was 31. So it was such a scary thing for me because I had been working so hard to take care of my baby girl and perform well at work and do really well so that, I could provide, and I was neglecting the most important resource, which was me. And it was in that moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 31, and just a few months ago I was very healthy, and in a few months I'm destroying my health. If I keep on like this, I won't be there for my daughter. So that was really the turning point. You know, it's not like I dreamed of becoming a fitness coach or a health coach. It was just one of those things where I started learning more and more about health and fitness, and really how to really apply it in my life as a busy professional woman. And then I started finding a great community. I started getting certifications. I, started teaching stuff and started training people. And then fast forward, my now husband and I opened a brick and mortar fitness studio in our hometown. And it was great. It was such a great idea. But then we were quickly like completely burned out.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started really exploring online health and fitness coaching, because I really loved what I did, but I didn't love what it was doing to me. And I didn't want to repeat that habit of killing myself for someone else. So this was like, Facebook was, I don't know, just a few years. I mean, this was early days. It was a little bit different than it is now. There are far more resources than there were, but I'd actually come across a couple of other coaches, and they were offering this whole online thing. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And I figured, hey, I have a business background. I work in systems. I have an MBA. I'll figure this thing out. And then I made every single mistake in the book building my business, because I just thought I knew better. And thankfully, I was smart enough to read a book, get a coach, and then the whole world of online health and fitness coaching opened up for me. And then I started working alongside of my business coach, helping him coach other people building their online business. And so fast forward to today, I have two parts of my business. One where I service our clients who are busy professional women who are just like me, over 30, 35. And we help them with healthy habits and fat loss in a very sustainable way. And then the other part of my business is actually helping new health and fitness coaches build their online businesses.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Great story. It's so much to ask you, so much to talk about. One question that sprung up that I think might be interesting, a little path to go down when you're telling your story, was this idea that you started this brick and mortar fitness studio, got burnt out, saw that some people were doing it online, decided I'm going to give that a whirl. So obviously nowadays, online fitness, online coaching, specifically fitness, I want to kind of keep this in the fitness realm. Online fitness has exploded because of, we know why. We're not even going to name it and shame it. We know why. We're not even giving it any more airtime. We're done talking about it. Online fitness is huge. How do you think the fitness consumer, how did the fitness consumer evolve to online fitness? Do you know what I mean? So you had a brick and mortar place, and I've spent my whole life in the fitness industry too, in gyms. People come to the gym, they work with the trainer, and now this more and more coaches are taking it online, which is amazing. Do you find the fitness consumer is evolving in the same way? Are they finding it more convenient? Are they finding it? Is there a learning curve? What do you find?
This is such a great question, because when I first started with online fitness, it was prior to the thing that shall not be named. And one of the things that was most difficult for me was helping people understand exactly what it is that we would do. Right. So they weren't ready. There was a huge learning curve. And for those people who, and that's probably one of the reasons why I really resonated with people who were busy, because these were the people who would not go to the gym. They traveled a lot. They work weird shifts. I work with a pilot. I work with medical professionals. And so at first it was really easy to target those people who weren't normally in the gym. So of course, when life changed in 2020, the thing that shall not be named, the business, the positive, obviously it's a devastating thing that's happened in the world, but on the positive side, there was a lot of technology innovation right away, and consumers had to quickly get up to speed with what it meant to consume things online that they normally didn't do. So that learning curve, because of the pandemic, was actually cut much shorter for me. And it allowed me in my business, like before, the biggest question when I was talking to a potential client was, well, how is this going to work? And now nobody asked that. They already knew how it was going to work. Now it was more about the program and their results and the questions that you would normally think that you would ask a trainer and a coach. So there was definitely a huge shift. And that's really, I even though that I feel like we're right in the beginning of this new technology surge, because one of the biggest changes I've seen are even the explosion of fitness apps. So when I first started, I was all on the Google spreadsheets and Google Docs, which if you've ever done that, it's such a pain. And I did start using fitness apps, but they were not nearly as developed. There weren't a lot of integrations. There weren't a lot of features. And it seems now that everybody is doing things online. There's just been such a huge change in the tools and resources that online fitness trainers have available to them. So it has been a very revolutionary time in terms of online and in person. I think there's room for both. I think we were already on the trajectory to start to use more technology, but this is definitely something that accelerated that process.
I think one thing that you mentioned that's really important is that there's this whole section of the population that wasn't getting to the gym anyway.
Right. They were being underserved dramatically. Yeah.
Right. That was their only option. Like, I guess I got to drag my butt to that place I don't want to go to. Nah, I'm not going to go.
Right.
That's a large swath of the population. And probably the people who need our help. I mean, I'm just going to generalize. Probably people who need our help aren't the ones that have a solid gym routine. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're the ones that need to be met where they're at.
What was that? What is it? Like 15% of people who have gym memberships actually go. And again, when I was talking, I mean, I was even thinking about myself. When I first started, I was a single parent. I would love to go to a gym, but I couldn't. I just couldn't leave my 4-year-old child at home. And even though the apartment that I moved into had a gym, that was even limiting because I couldn't leave the house, without a babysitter. And a lot of my clients, like I said, they travel internationally. So they don't necessarily stay in the same place. Or, I mean, there's a large, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a large part of our population that doesn't have that traditional gym opportunity or lifestyle, or even if they do, they'll fall off or something happens or their parents get sick and they have to fly to another state. And so I love being able to serve people who are not folks who go to the gym, who aren't gym rats. Now I'm a gym rat. I love it. But obviously my routine even had to change last year in order to accommodate all the changes happening in the world.
Yeah. It's funny. I completely relate to, because I opened a brick and mortar gym too. I thought that was going to be like solve all my problems. And to a certain degree, boy, it accomplished something. It accomplished what I wanted it to accomplish. I felt that I needed to kind of I was a health coach first, had fallen in love with CrossFit after the fact, and decided to open my own gym because I was looking to exit out of another career. And I'm like, we need a source of revenue, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, we got it open. And it served its purpose. I was able to leave that career. But boy, talk about just the burnout and to a certain degree, the difference between a brick and mortar gym and what you can do online is just the scalability and the leverageability of the skill set we can bring to the table, the number of people we can serve. But what I will say too is I do think there's a big difference between these smaller boutique gyms and people that are seeking that out versus kind of these larger, it's like if you just really think about it, the big box gyms are for the people that want they just want a place to go where they can sit in a sauna. Maybe they get a great workout in, but it's really about something else. They can bring their kids there, for example. They couldn't last year, but you know what I'm saying. And then you've got these, and those are the areas where like 15% of the people actually go. Right. But then you get to these smaller, like boutique, smaller membership programs where there's a coach and an owner there that's like, where have you been?
Right.
There's a lot more like, I haven't seen you, and there's a lot of community there. And then that fits that sort of niche, people that kind of need that. But still, to Erin's point and to your point, there's this whole other, and I would argue probably half the population at least, that are not going to be able to take advantage of either of those solutions. And we're kind of stuck watching at-home videos and doing like at-home, booty tape type, all that's fine. And so I 100% agree with you. In the last 5 years, the access to technology, apps, I mean, it's unbelievable the benefit that online coaching has provided the average consumer and the average coach, your ability to grow, you can deliver better and more content. Like it's just phenomenal. And I also have seen examples of people that do have both, that they do have kind of like a brick and mortar locally to them, but then they also have this whole other kind of online presence. I mean, I just think it's phenomenal, but I think the average coach getting started today is like a deer in headlights.
It is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
overwhelming.
So where would you recommend a new coach start this endeavor?
Yeah, such a great question, because in my Facebook group, we just talked about this, and we're going to be talking about it later after I have the conversation with you. But I think it really starts with finding your niche and finding your offer, because what I'm hearing, and when I'm, I like to be in the personal training communities. I'm still, in there. I love talking to people. And a lot of times when people want to go online, they said, okay, they just want to translate exactly what they've been doing in the gym and then go online. So if you were a personal trainer and you had, 5 slots a day, then you're going to go online with a Zoom connection and have 5 slots a day. And I think you're really missing an opportunity to change the way that you do your programming. And I actually tell people, I've trained in a gym, and not only in my own brick and mortar studio, and we were a smaller, more boutique style studio, but I also trained at a large box gym. And I can tell you without a doubt, I get way better results from my clients online, because there's so many more things that I can do for them, because I'm not limited by that 1 hour time slot that I see them once or maybe twice a week. So for a new trainer, I would say the very first thing to do is really get specific about what's your area of expertise? What do you want to really focus in on? Who do you want to work with and why? And get really specific about that niche. So what I've also seen is, because there's such an onslaught of new health coaches, fitness coaches online, some people will say, oh, it's so saturated, you can't do well. I don't believe that for a second. We have millions of people who need our help, millions. So until we have bazillions and millions of coaches and everybody's fit, there's plenty of opportunity. I think the difference is, back in the day, and I jokingly say back in the day, it's like 3.5 years ago. Back in the day, you could just go online and say, hey, I'm a coach and I help you get fit. And then there's lots of clients. Because there's so many more coaches, you have to be very clear on who you talk to, so you can cut through the noise and stand out in your space. So I always tell people, if you want to work with postpartum moms who want to build strength, then be really, really clear about that person, because you want to be the first person on someone's lips when their friend says, I had a baby and gosh, my muscles are I'm not where they used to be, and I want to get strong. And you want to be like, yes, call Jennifer. That's exactly what she does. It's not just enough to say, I want to work with weight loss, or I want to work with whatever. You have to say, I'm going to work with people who want weight loss, who need to lose 50 or more pounds. So a new coach should ask themselves, what's your area of expertise? What do you want to be known for? Who do you want to serve? And be as specific as possible without being ridiculous. I mean,
Right.
you're not just serve male people under 5'4" who want to do one-handed. I mean, that's a little too specific. But I always tell people, think about, where do communities already exist? Because that's where you're going to start to tap into to find your new clients. So the very first thing, find the niche, and then create an offer. And please, God, please do not underprice yourself. Because in the very beginning, especially brand new coaches, I am a firm believer in having premium offers, because you have to find something that's sustainable for you to pay your bills. When you become more established, you have a brand, you have clients coming in left and right, then if you want to offer a lower priced membership or a lower priced product, you absolutely can. But in the beginning, I think it's very important for you to consider the value of what you're offering, consider the value of your solution and what that means for your client, and price yourself accordingly so that you can pay your bills, so that you're not living paycheck to paycheck or client to client. And so those are the two things, like create a really solution-based offer. And I can get into that because that's the other thing I see that's, grates me, but a solution-based offer, and be very, very specific about your niche. That's very critical.
Oh my gosh, I'm just so happy because we drive this home so much and we talk about a niche and people are, and don't get me wrong, we've interviewed a couple people that are like, my niche is that I have no niche, and they've been successful for another reason. Like my argument would be, it might not be a particular person, but it's definitely a specific solution. They've got a very specific thing they do. They just might not have defined it down to the individual, but we teach this in our program, right, Erin? Like from the beginning, get very, very clear on what this is. And people are so afraid of not appealing to enough people. And we keep trying to tell them that's not the way it works. So thank you so much for that plug.
If you do it correctly, I always ask people when they say that, how many people do you need to have a successful business? Do you need 6 million? No, you probably need like 30,
Yes.
So
Smallest
it's okay.
viable
And in my experience, even when I got very, very specific, I would still get people outside of that very narrow niche. The pilot that I work with was male. And so my niche is professional women, but there was something about what I was saying that really appealed to him, probably because he had no time, he had weird schedules, all that stuff that I talked about. And so he reached out to me. So just because you're specific, it's really more about becoming someone who just doesn't blend.
Right.
You can easily just fade into the background with all the coaches out there on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever format that you're using. And so, yeah, be specific.
Yeah. The purpose of niching is, just to reiterate this to folks listening, is not to pigeonhole yourself, is to clarify yourself. So you're speaking very specifically about your solution, and that will resonate with lots of people.
Yes.
But a part of me feels like this is a bit novel in the fitness space. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So I love a big box gym, huge fan of big box gyms over here. Sorry, I'm not gonna apologize. And I sort of occasionally will enter into personal training relationships. I like working with a personal trainer. It's fun. It gets a lot, it's effective. It gets the job done really well. But when you go to a big box gym, or maybe any gym, I've only ever been to big box gym, so I can't speak to this anywhere else, but you say, hey, I'm interested in personal training. And they say, oh, well, Joe's got some openings. It's like, okay, I guess I'll work with Joe. And Joe's good at making people strong and putting them through programs, but Joe does the same thing for me that he does for all of his clients. I'm, maybe I have some movement dysfunction, or maybe I have a specific longevity goal. Maybe I don't care about gains. Maybe I want something else, but, almost even on the consumer side, it's like, well, I just need a trainer. Do you know what I mean? Like, in nutrition coaching, maybe, or health or lifestyle coaching, I think there's an appetite from the consumer side for honing in on somebody who can help me. But on the PT side, it's like, I'm just going to get a trainer. Right, so it seems a bit novel. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think from a trainer's perspective, and I have nothing, when I say I'm a gym rat, I go to all gyms, so big, small, it doesn't matter. And when I was a personal trainer in a gym, I think it's novel from the trainer side, because we're used to, if you're in a gym, you get what you get. When the person comes in the door, you train them. You don't turn them down because it's like, oh, well, I prefer to work. I mean, unless you're in kind of a specialty gym or a specialty studio, or you have some situation where you've marketed yourself and maybe you're renting space. But when you're in, most trainers, especially new trainers, and that's who I work with, they're newly certified, they're really excited, and they just want somebody to work with them. So the whole concept, and this is kind of what I mean by you can't necessarily translate your in-gym or in-person experience online. It's different, because if you're working in a gym, especially if you're not in business for yourself, you are just basically accepting whoever your gym is marketing to. And so you therefore adjust yourself accordingly, and you market yourself accordingly. So maybe you're not necessarily talking about who you get results for. You're just talking about, you get results. Look at my awesome clients. And so, and probably, and then as a consumer, you're probably conditioned, I need a trainer. You walk in and maybe the difference is I need a male trainer or female trainer, or,
Right.
there's some of that, but there's really not that niching down in the in-person space like there needs to be in the
Yeah.
online space.
Yeah, I think it's actually a gap that's been in the fitness industry for a long time. I was even thinking about this too from the perspective of coaching, which is what Laura and I teach at our school and we talk about on this podcast, but the art and science of coaching also kind of missing from the personal trainer world in some ways, in the sense that you come in and you've got your program and it's sets and reps and counting intervals and counting reps. And then it's like, okay, I'll see you on Wednesday. And I think there's an opportunity to fold coaching into fitness more. Do you bring that in?
Absolutely right. And this is exactly what I mean by I've been able to get better results for my clients online, because it's way more than just here's your workout.
Right.
We are really going into understanding who our clients are, what their lifestyle is, what their roadblocks are, helping them develop habits, giving them knowledge there. And so me and my team of coaches have not just training experience, but they have lots of other types of certifications and experiences so that we can help develop that whole person. Because I've always been a believer that when people are not in their best health, that's just a symptom of a whole bunch of other things that are probably happening beneath the surface. Maybe it's a lack of time, or it's a lack of understanding, or it's a lack of developing certain habits, or you had habits and then your whole life flipped upside down and you have to figure that out again. So I completely agree that I call myself a coach because yes, I have a personal training certification. I've been a personal trainer, but what we do for our clients is so much bigger than that. And I think that is the opportunity for people, health professionals who are going online. They can truly do so much more than that brick and mortar box, both literally and figuratively, have put them in. And it's so important to really think. And that's why I talk about think in terms of solutions. Your client, if they say, I'm overweight and I want to lose 25 pounds, that's not really ultimately what they want. Ask them deeper questions to get to why that's important. Why, what does that do for them? What are the roadblocks in getting there? And then craft an entire solution for them. So yes, they'll lose 25 pounds, but they're going to develop skills. They're going to develop habits. They'll develop more confidence. They'll get those bigger, broader, deeper results that last a long time. So the solution piece that I teach is incredibly important. And so in order to create a great solution, you have to know your niche, you have to know who you're serving, and you have to have a really good understanding of what's their life like? How do they, what time do they get up? What's in their way? What do they really need from you? And then there's the thing that they think they need, and there's the thing that they actually need. And that's where your expertise comes in. And you develop a solution and a program around that. And that is why you can create this program that's scalable, that's valuable, and people will continue to pay you for it.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that, and Erin for bringing it up, because, for years, my fitness certifications were all like CrossFit or MoveNet, or I didn't have like a personal training certification. And I took that thinking I was going to be so much more educated. And I actually found that the certifications I had taken in my past versus my personal they actually worked really well together, because they really taught me different things. But none of them really dug deeply into kind of the psychological side of change and behavior change. My NASM cert did a little bit. I had like one chapter that was really more about how to keep your client compliant and showing up more than anything else. Right. So this is why, my role at our school is admissions director. Mm-hmm. And I am seeing a larger percentage now of existing professionals of some capacity interested in learning how to coach. More and more fitness professionals have realized it's more than just exercise. Yeah. And some of them think it's clearly I have to talk nutrition. That's part of it.
Right.
But the bigger part of it is the psychological side. Mm-hmm. Right. And we're also seeing it more and more with just other clinical professionals that now that, let's face it, this kind of trend towards online services is not just in fitness. It's in health period, right? More and more telemedicine, more and more nurses that are getting out of the hospitals and are actually doing online nursing and medication management and stuff like this. And they're really very interested in understanding more about coaching and understanding people and how people work and the psychology of change. And so I would love to dig a little bit deeper into developing a solutions-based offer. What
Yes.
does that sound like in real terms when you're talking to somebody? Because to your point, it does need to be scalable, right? You need to have at least the bones of a repeatable program that could be tailored to an individual. But at the end of the day, how do you communicate the solution, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah. And you know, it starts before you even talk to the client. Like you need to do your homework. Like you need to do market research. And I'm not saying like you need to pay some ridiculous amount of money for a marketing firm, but if you know you're going to be working with like postpartum women over 40, talk to a few of them and ask them like what's going on. So when you're communicating the solution, the very first thing I always ask my potential clients, you know, they tell me this is what I want, and I will ask them why. Why is this important? What do they need? What does this do for you? So we were able to accomplish this. What changes? Like what?
Yeah.
And so you get to that, what I call the deep emotional why, which is always very, very different than that physical thing that they're talking about. And so at that point, even though I have a repeatable program, so you're going to get a few things. You will get workouts, you will get nutrition, you will have some educational pieces, you will have one-on-one coaching. But when I talk about that, it's the so that. It's so if you told me that I need to do this, okay, we're going to do one-on-one coaching and talk so that you are on track and we're really able to make sure what we're doing fits into your busy lifestyle, because you indicated that the biggest challenge is the busy lifestyle or something like that. So it's talking about not just the features and the what of your program, it's the so that and the deeper meaning as to why that's important and how that connects them to their real, deeper emotional goal. And that's where we talk solutions. So the experience or the solution and the packaging comes from you've listened, you did your market research, and I'm constantly listening to my clients. It's not like it's a one and done. They're going to start to use language and you're going to start to hear some patterns of similar things. And you should be writing those down and making sure your program actually addresses the things that continuously come up for them. And then when you're talking to them or consulting with them or however you're selling your program, it's always about that so that. So yes, it's one thing. And I tell new coaches this all the time. They always want to tell you like how many PDFs you get and how many this and how many that. It's like, that's just a laundry list. So what? Why do I care? It's like, well, I'm doing this so that you'll never have to write this thing ever again. Or, you know, we're putting us in this nutrition education so that when you are done working with me, you have a very clear sense of how to eat. I don't do meal plans so that you can actually learn how to do these things. Plus, I'll of course it's out of scope for me, but I always tell them it's like, no, I also, you need to learn. So it's that what I call the so that factor. And that's how we sell the solutions and not the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did we hear that before? I feel like we haven't heard that in a long time, but somebody years ago, Laura, on the podcast, it might have been JJ Virgin, dropped that nugget too. But we do teach that in our course as well. Our unique value proposition, which is I help XYZ person solve XYZ problem so that, and then their lived experience kind of goes in that blank.
Yeah. And I think a lot gets lost when people are developing the features of their program. They're assuming that the benefits are obvious, but then they're also assuming that what they're viewing as a benefit is actually a benefit to the actual client, when everybody's a little bit different. And there's a difference between a benefit and a solution. You know, something could be viewed as a good thing, but it doesn't solve my problem.
Right? Yes. And I think there's also a tendency to think that more equals better.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I teach people is to edit. And this was a great lesson that I learned. It was actually feedback that I got from a client, because I was all about, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have this. And I was like, this is so valuable. Look at this program. And then when people started actually using it, they used maybe half of what I was giving them.
Right.
And a person who was a client and a friend said, you know what, Jennifer, all I care about is, and then she broke it down. And so I think that's the piece, the listening piece, understand that the solution is not exactly what you think that they should. They have to feel like, this is what I need. And yes, somewhere in there, you're sneaking in your expertise. And then my favorite is also use their language, because we have all this education, we have this experience, we want to use big fancy words and language, and mindset is a big one that I hear people saying. But I mean, if I talk to my neighbor down the street, she's not going to be like, I need mindset help.
Yes.
She doesn't care about that.
Honestly.
You got to speak the language that they're using.
Or even, I need health coaching, or
Right.
I need to work on my gut health, or I need to balance my hormones. Like, use a language. So I love this advice. And every time we get a business coach type person like yourself on the podcast, I always think to myself, gosh, I have to go through my intake forms, because I have almost 1,000 of them at this point. Literally words from clients who's like, my main health goal is like, I have this, I can mine this data. But we always get this question from the new coach: who do I ask?
Oh, great. Yeah. I will start with the people, start with your circles. I mean, if you have a general sense of, who you want to work with, find a couple friends. And you can do, when you don't know a lot of people. So let's say you don't have much of a following, you don't have a large community, you're just starting off. Talk to maybe 2 or 3 people who are most like the person that you want to work with, and interview them, something more in depth, and hear their story. And then use those stories to craft your solution. And then as you get more clients in, continue to tweak and craft and narrow down your solution. The other thing is, I'm a big fan of being in online communities. I love it, because sometimes I've had my online business for 4 years, and I don't work as closely with my clients anymore. I'm kind of more, running the business. And I have co-coaches who work with me. So I'm not as hands-on as I used to be. So I love being in other communities and just listening, So that's why I always say, in your niche, make sure that there are existing communities, because you can join those communities and ask people, or simply listen. On Facebook groups, sometimes I'll just do a search in the group for a couple of keywords to see what comes up. So on the business coaching side, I might have questions like, I might do a key search for online business, and then get all the questions that other trainers and coaches are asking about how to start an online business. So I go to the communities, I listen, I look at the data, I'll ask questions. And so if you're a brand new person, I would recommend those same things.
Right. Yeah, no, it's so funny, because when I think through, first of all, the reason why people don't launch, this is something that our school is actively working to help address, as far as the number of people that graduate from a program. And it takes a long time to get their wheels underneath them. And I think part of this is coming from like, everything has to be perfect before I launch, right? Like, I have to have everything figured out, because they're too afraid. For whatever reason, that was not my problem. Like, I just knew that I could help some people. I didn't have a program. I had nothing organized. I was just like, I can help. Will you let me help? Great. And then you learn along the way. And there's something that you said that rang that bell for me, like, put something together, but over time, it's going to change as you gain more experience. And Erin talks about how her program has gone through many iterations over a number of years. The more people she's worked with, she's found a better mousetrap to accomplish the same thing, And I also love that you made a plug for speak their language, because the big red flag for me of people who really don't know what they're talking about is when they can't explain it to me in terms I can understand. Yes. In my head, this is an academic.
Yes.
That can't explain it. And it's either a lack of confidence, or a lack of real world application that they don't know how to explain it.
Mhm.
So you don't have to know all the fancy words. You don't have to have all the answers, because guess what? Doctors and PhDs don't either. They don't.
No, they don't.
They don't, right? And so why would we expect ourselves to have that all figured out? So have a little bit of grace. Start with the market research and come up with something that you feel confident. I can help some people with this,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And then let yourself grow, right?
Oh yeah. We're constant.
Yeah.
I mean, look at iPhone, look at Apple.
Oh my
They
gosh.
come out with new devices every single year because they're learning, they're growing, new stuff comes out. And so, you can't look at the iPhone 12 and think that automatically you're going to go from whatever the original iPhone to iPhone 12. You won't. I mean, you have to just start where you start. And that's one thing that I've definitely learned in my own fitness business and my fitness coaching business. I I look back at the stuff that I did in the beginning and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But
Right.
you're right, just getting out there and getting the experience, getting the feedback, having a negative review, you learn from those experiences and you get better. I'm a huge fan of education and coaching and learning from different people, reading books. Oh my goodness, I'm such an I'm gonna lie, I don't read. I'm an Audible freak. So I am, I listen to anything from nutrition to, business to whatever, because you're always getting better. And that's the thing. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, it might be the fun part, like the learning and growing and learning more about your craft and how to do it better, how to deliver it better. And the more you continue to listen and hear feedback, and that's always a big part of what I teach too. Like a lot of business coaches will get you to the point where you sell the program, but I am a firm believer in the success of your business is really what happens after that. It's the onboarding, the program delivery, the offboarding, and listening and using those opportunities in your program to really hear what people are saying and then deliver a great product. And they'll tell you what they need. They'll tell you what worked. They'll tell you what didn't. You'll see their results. And when you really do a great job delivering your program, I think that's when you really grow. There are 8
Oh, for
million
sure.
ways to get a client in the door. They're
Yeah.
really, you have to keep them. And you
Yeah.
have to establish a reputation of being a good coach.
Yes. We teach this in our course. We keep name dropping our course, but we
No,
just,
it's great.
we're in
We
the
don't
business
mean
of we're in the business of educating coaches just as you are. And honestly, just hearing this stuff from a couple of educators can't hurt. So one thing that we teach in the course is the customer experience.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, great. You've got your niche, you've got your offer. Good start. Now, what's it going to be like when they work with you? Like, what's the first thing that happens when they click the book now button? Then what happens when they get on the discovery call and they want to work with you? How does that go? What's the next thing that happens? And I always tell folks, you tell me what you think of this advice because you're a business coach and I'm not. I always tell folks, look, you're a consumer. You know, as a consumer, what customer experiences you like and don't like. So just like mimic one that you like.
Mm,
What do you think
yeah.
about that?
I agree. That's where I start. And I'm a huge systems freak. So what you described to me, I'm like, system. So I always coach people. I always said if I were going to create a podcast, I should trademark this right now. It would be called There's a System for That. Because I think sometimes people get so overwhelmed because they know there's a lot of stuff they need to do, but they don't know how to tackle it. So when I work with clients, my business clients, I teach them systems. So there's an onboarding system. And I firmly believe that you can make or break your client experience in your first 24 hours. So as soon as they say yes, get them going, give them something to do right away, capitalize on their excitement and the newness of it, because you and I know as coaches, there's going to be a period of time where it's going to be really tough. And so get them going right away, get them off to a great start. And then I think there's a system for everything. And to the extent where you can start writing down the steps of what do I do first, second, and third, what happened, and just as you've described, what happens as soon as they say yes, what do you do, what do they do, and write down that system. And that's what you're looking at to see if it works well or not. And that's how you can scale. You start to systemize or systemize,
Yeah.
whatever.
I know what you mean.
Create systems with. Your business processes, and then in that you can start to automate those systems. And so there are things that don't need your hands on it. And that's really how I was able to grow my business with keeping a really, really small team and working less. I used to work all the time because I was always touching each part of the experience. But yeah, people really need to deliver and have a consistent system on how to deliver a great experience for your client. And if you can repeat that system and make that system better and better every single time, every new client, that's really how your business grows. Because people want results. They want to know that you hear them. They want to know that they've made a good investment. They want to know that you care. And so you can create customer experience systems to have multiple touch points, even if they're not live. You can make sure that at this point in the program, you're asking their feedback on how certain things went. That's how I started to refine my experience. People would tell me, yeah, that didn't work very well. That was and I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. I didn't get defensive. Thank you. And then I changed it. And the next person said, hey, that was really smooth. So I was like, bam, okay, good.
Sweet.
And I would just continue to address my system until it got really, really good. And then I automated as much as I could so that me or my coaches could really spend the time doing the stuff that required our very personal expertise and not necessarily, touching buttons and emailing things or confirming.
So do you have some suggestions on where, from a systems perspective, new coaches should start, and then maybe what they might want to consider growing into? Because, Erin tells a story about how when she first started, she had this system because it worked. And the next thing you know, 10 years later, she's got a bunch of different systems that don't really work well together anymore and trying to kind of fix all that. So, from a other coaches perspective, and you've got a brand new coach, what systems should they prioritize? And then what should they think as they grow and mature, think about growing into?
Yeah, I think first the distinguish for me is I distinguish between systems and software, because I think the system is a step-by-step and the software is how you deliver the step-by-step. The software is always changing, but your system's probably going to be about the same, or you'll tweak it until it's great.
Gotcha.
So I would say, in terms of the very first thing I would do is write down your system so that you know what you want your customer to experience. So if your customer, once they sign up with you, should receive a communication or they should receive forms, write those things down first. And then I go back through when I'm creating my automation and those type of software things, and I'll say, okay, what is the thing that I need to actually give them and what systems work well? The nice thing about how it has evolved is a lot of the training software, for example, I use Trainerize. They have a lot of the features that I would like to use all in one. So when I'm saying, okay, I want my customer to have this, 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 and this, then I'll start looking for software that can deliver all of that stuff. So I'm a big fan of good all-in-one software. Now, there's definitely all-in-one software that does a lot of stuff and it's not necessarily good at it, but I don't think it needs to be very complex. What I would do is just definitely start with mapping the system itself, and then you can start to explore the software that makes your system easier. So I don't necessarily preach you should have this much technology, but I do think some basics would be like calendar booking software, because that's going to save you a ton of time. And some of them are free, or if they're not free, they're like $10 or $15 a month. I would definitely look at, if you are working with clients or a group of clients, some sort of training or nutrition software, and there are lots of different options out there, and they continuously get better and better. And most of them can do some really cool things. They can integrate your payment systems. They have video or message features inside of them, so you don't also have to buy Zoom or something else. Many of them have nutrition integrations, and a lot of them are starting to integrate into your consumers' wearables. So I know in Trainerize, it's like your Apple Watch, your Fitbit, those types of things. So I would just first look for the things that you're going to do every single day. Like, you're going to be talking to clients, you're going to be booking. If you're using social media, I'm a huge fan of scheduling software. because I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not on my phone all day, or I don't want to be. So I'll kind of block out some time each week and schedule my social media and then be done with it. So calendar, social media scheduling software, and then a program delivery software that makes sense. And if your program delivery software doesn't have payment software, then you definitely need that, because unless you get paid, you're not really in business. And then beyond that, then there's so many different options. But I think for a new person, those 3 things are where I would start.
Yeah, that's a good list. That's a solid list. Practice management software is something that's really on the rise. So like that didn't even exist when I got started. And so that's why I have 800 different tools that I'm trying to force to integrate. But there's a lot of really cool ones out there. I think it's, and I think to your point, when they first came on the market, they were kind of trying to do too much and they've really streamlined. But it's important. One thing that I think is important for coaches listening is that you can always get on the phone and talk to somebody. So I recently did this where I was going to switch from my current email management tool to another one. And that was going to be a pain in the butt because I have so many, oh my gosh, automation campaigns, but I've outgrown the one I was using. I've outgrown the chimp. I've outgrown it, loved it, but I've outgrown it. And I got on the phone with a guy at Active Campaign, and he said, tell me exactly